Ascension Perks, they were added back in Utopia, and they were an absolutely great addition to the game, allowing you to customize and personalize your empire in ways that you never thought possible. Now, over time, the developers have added more and more of these, whether or not it was in vanilla or in several expansions. A lot have them been reworked, and that's why today we're going to be doing a tier list with these here Ascension Perks. Now, you may have noticed that we actually only go down to the D tier on this one, because anything below the D is yeah, I don't think anything applies to anything below to that. So we can actually take a look at that later. But still, we're going to have a structure for this one. And that is that we're going to be going over the vanilla ones first, followed by the expansion ones, then some of the more special ones, which are listed in the on your screen right as well. Basically, those are specific Ascension Perks that are only applicable to certain types of empires. And then finally, we have the Ascension Paths, which are a completely separate category, but they still fall under Ascension Perks in general, so we are going to cover them in this particular video. Let's strap in. This could be a long one, as the Ascension Perks are going to get tiered. First of all, there is Eternal Vigilance. This is a starbase orientated Ascension Perks, and you can only get it as soon as you unlock the Star Fortress technology. What does it do? Well, it improves your star bases to a certain extent. You get more damage, your hull is stronger, your platforms do more damage by 5%, and on top of that, you get plus 5 defense platforms. This is where the problem comes in, however. I don't necessarily feel that any sort of platforms are worth it in terms of resources as well as the time it takes to build them. Sure, in the extremely late game, you can have extremely powerful star bases that can hold the line for a certain amount of time, but I don't feel that star bases in general are really worthwhile when it comes to the defensive part of the game. At least not to the point where I want to spend a Ascension perk on them. Therefore, Eternal Vigilance gets a solid D tier for me. Yeah, that's right. It goes into the D tier. It's not great. It does need. I do feel that it needs a little bit of love in order to make it more viable and to make it a interesting pick for you. Sure, if you're pushed all the way back and you need something quickly, then this could be something that is useful to you. But there are other ways to boost all of these, such as repeatable technologies, as well as some of the tradition trees, like the Supremacy tier also boosts the power of star bases. And I think Eternal Vigilance is not powerful enough to be on par with some of the other stuff that you can get in the game. It's an Ascension perk. It needs to be powerful. You need to have a reason to pick it. And that right there is a little bit unfortunate. Executive Vigor. This one used to be one of my favorites, actually. At least I would pick it relatively frequently due to its power. Basically, what it used to do was it would make your edicts last 50% longer, and especially if you were gagging for influence and you didn't have all that many resources to go around to actually get those edicts, then yeah, this was something that was rather useful, because instead of having something last 10 years, it would last 15 years, and then with repeatables you could stack that even more. However, as of the latest update, the whole edict system has been changed, and it's now a +2 edict capacity. Is this a good thing or not? I actually don't think it is. I think it's one of the weaker approaches of rework here. Adding a +2 edict capacity on paper may sound nice, but it's just another way to spend more influence in different categories. Something that you're only going to have problems with in the late game, as in you'll have enough influence for it. Edict capacity is nice. Sure, you can get more edict capacity by playing as a dictatorial or an imperial setup, but even with the oligarchies and the democracies, you get one whole edict. It is not that great. I do feel it needs a little bit of a rework to do more things, because +2 edict capacity, to me, it's just not worth it. If you have a decent economy, then having then you just don't need a lot of these particular things. Sure, if you need to run research grants or greater than ourselves in parallel, then you can easily offset that with a good economy. So that's why it's going to be a D tier. Yes, that's right. D tier on this one over here. I like how their hexes, by the way, they fit very nicely into each other. But yeah, Executive Vigor needs a little bit of rework in my personal opinion. Which brings us to Imperial Prerogative, another one that I don't think is all that great. It increases your admin cap by 20%. As of the 2.6 update, we now have the wonders of bureaucrats, and bureaucrats completely negate any need of generating more admin cap. Being able to build habitats, being able to have worlds full of bureaucrats makes anything involving improving your admin cap completely useless. Therefore, Imperial Prerogative is also going to go into the D tier. It is in desperately need of rework here. Imperial Prerogative, just because the modifier is just not worth it. Plus 20% admin cap, no, I'm not a fan of it whatsoever. Interstellar Dominion. Now we're starting to get into something a little bit more interesting. It's a vanilla one, of course, and what does it do? Well, it reduces your claim cost as well as your Starbase influence cost, both by 20%, which by itself can be a big impact if you are in war and you want to spend your influence on claims and getting more territory. This is a very situational one. If you are in a game and you are gagging for territory because you just don't have that much space, then this could be an interesting thing to have. Interstellar Dominion by itself is, like I said, very situational. And that's why I'm going to put it into the C category. Not so much because it is useless. It does have its own uses in very specific scenarios, but it's not something that I would spend an Ascension perk on. It's just not powerful enough to go for it, especially in the early game where you don't have that much influence. You don't have that much territory on the enemy side to claim. The only real bonus is the Starbase influence cost modifier, which by itself is nice, but let's be honest here. If you're going to go and take enemy territory, then you're going to have Starbase influence cost modifiers anyway. So, yeah, you don't going to need that because you're claiming their territory. Plus, expansion tree already negates quite a lot of this stuff. But it's nice to have, I guess. You can stack this with several other of the claim cost modifiers and get free claims. But it's like a whole different discussion. We will talk about that at a later date. Mastery of Nature. Back in 1.2 or 1.3, Mastery of Nature was a de facto #1 pick because it was such a strong thing to have. You didn't need to tech a whole bunch of blockers because back then Mastery of Nature would unlock every single blocker tech. And you would be able to just get rid of them super quickly, super easily. But that's no longer the case. Now it just removes blockers at a reduced cost of 33%. And on top of that, you get the Mastery of Nature decision. Now, what does a Mastery of Nature decision actually do? Well, it gives you 2 additional districts per planet for a cost of 2,000 energy and 100 influence. Again, this is a very situational scenario. Let's say you're playing with not too many planets, or you don't have that many big planets, and you don't have habitats or anything along those lines because, for instance, you didn't get Utopia or Federations. Then, well, Mastery of Nature is probably a good pick. However, in general, I would put this one into the C category because if you have all the expansions and you know how to play the game, and then Mastery of Nature doesn't really add all that much value. Sure, it's an economical boost, but the real boon here is Mastery of Nature Decision, which adds those additional districts. But for 2,000 energy, it's more of a mid to late game item here. You're not going to spend 2,000 energy on anything in the start of the game because you just won't have the energy. It's just not going to happen anytime soon unless you're maybe a mega corporation. But still, it's just one of those things that I don't think is all that viable. One Vision used to be one of my de facto picks, and that was because of its 10% monthly Unity bonus, which by itself is really nice. You know, you want to get more Unity, you can go up the tree really quickly. It's rather good. Plus, the reduction in amenities usage by 10%, also really nice, especially if you're playing Voidborn, for instance. You don't have that many amenities to go around, and then you can just do whatever. You don't need any of those special buildings that generate amenities. Plus, there is the governing ethics attraction bonus of 50%, which may really make sure that you can keep your factions in line, especially if you combine that with a deep space black site. One Vision is pretty powerful. However, overall, because of the amenities uses reduction, the meager 10% monthly Unity bonus, I actually don't think Unity One Vision is all that great anymore. It used to feel really good, but since then I've kind of changed my mind about it, which is why I'm going to put it into the C category as well. I'm sure a lot of people are not going to agree with this one. I do feel that One Vision needs a little bit of rework to make itself work even better. But yeah, One Vision, it's nice, but it's not great. It's not something I would spend a Ascension perk on. Let's put it like that. We only have 8 of them. And this feels just like a waste in general. Shared Destiny. What does it do? It reduces your subject integration cost by 50%, and all of your subjects, well, they'll just trust you more. I guess that is a nice thing to have. If I would, integrate my subjects, which is not something that I do personally. I do like my tributaries as well as my vassals for the passive bonuses that I get, and I just don't want to deal with all the additional pops that are floating around out there. Sure, it's nice to have, but unless you're playing really, really wide and you want to have all the empires in your galaxy joined with you, then Shared Destiny is just, is not that great. It's a D tier for me, sadly. Shared Destiny is going to go down here into the D tier. Objectively, it just needs rework. It needs to have something involving automated voting for your goals if they are part of the galactic community, or something along those lines. But Shared Destiny and its current form is just not all that great. Technological Ascendancy. Oh, you knew this one was coming. The de facto #1 pick that everybody always should pick in any scenario. Plus 10 research speed and rare techs become 50% more common. My God, it is so good. I'm not even gonna question this. This is straight up S tier for me right here. Why S tier? Well, because technology growth is what wins the game together with pops. But that additional bonus of having rare tech becoming 50% more common is so good, because sometimes you're just trying to get that rare tech that you've been looking for such a long time, and it's just not popping up. And this really helps so much, especially when you're working in combination with specialized researchers that you want to focus on. Like, say you want to go down spaceships so you can get Voidcraft, so in that particular way. So this all stacks, and it's great. I love Technological Ascendancy. It's a de facto #1 pick of what is available in the game. Transcendent Learning. Oh boy. +2 leader level cap, as well as a 50% leader experience gain bonus, I guess is nice, but it's not something, again, that I would spend a Ascension perk on. It's just not really worth your while. Sure, the leader cap is annoying. Normally it's, I think, at 5, and having it +2 is nice. And then, of course, you can go down the discovery tree and you can get a couple more level cap bonuses. And in the late game, you could go for that level 10 leader or something along those lines. But is that going to be powerful enough? That is the real question, really. Transcendent Learning. Let's put it this way. By the time that you need Transcendent Learning and you're really aching for that additional leader level cap, it's just not going to be worthwhile, because there is going to be better Ascension perks available to you, whether or not you want them or not. Transcendent Learning is really catering towards that early game where you want to get more leader levels on your scientists, for instance, or on your governors, just so that they can be more effective at their jobs. But overall, Transcendent Learning is just not worth it. And that's why Transcendent Learning, again, it goes into the D category. It's nice on paper, but by the time it becomes relevant, it's just not all that good. Speaking of things that are not all that good, Grasp the Void. You get +5 starbase capacity. That is it. In a perfect world, Grasp the Void would be merged together with Eternal Vigilance in order to get a little bit more flavor out of it. Grasp the Void is one of the few Ascension perks that I think has almost zero value, mainly due to technologies like repeatables and stuff like that, as well as, well, what would you use starbases for? Let's be honest here. Defense? Not really. For anchorages to get more naval capacity? Possibly. maybe some trade value. Well, as soon as you get gateways, that becomes completely useless as well. So yeah, starbase capacity +5, whilst nice, is not all that awesome, and it's the only one that gets a D-. So that's why we're going to go and have it hang out here in the bottom of the D tier. Grass the Void, +5 starbase capacity. It's just not worth it. It's not worth it at all. World Shaper. Wow, World Shaper. World Shaper is curious because it does reduce your terraforming cost by 25%. You can then create Gaia worlds for a exorbitant amount of energy credits, and on top of that, you need climate restoration technology to make this world work. Gaia worlds, are they worth it? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. Is it something you want to spend an Ascension perk on? Absolutely not. This is not something I am too happy with. 25% terraforming costs, sure, great. By the time that you are going to be terraforming worlds en masse, you'll have so much energy that the terraforming costs are not even going to be a problem anymore. Gaia worlds is a nice little extra bonus, but let's say that you roll, hypothetically, the Baul or something along those lines, then, well, you can just generate Gaia worlds whenever you want, really. And yeah, that's pretty much it. It's again, situational. It's one of those things where, oh, I've got a lot of planets, and I want to terraform them to something else, and it's going to cost a lot of money, but to be honest, the terraforming costs are completely negligible. And that's why I reach for the stars. Oh god, oh god, what did I do here? Where did Transcendent, where did reach for the stars go? Oh god, there it is. Well, we'll just leave it at that. World Shaper gets a C tier. Very situational, not all that great. And there is World Shaper. But yeah, World Shaper, situational, very situational. Unless you absolutely need it, I wouldn't pick it. Let's put it that way. Then we get to a duo. It's the Defender of the Galaxy and Galactic Contender. We're going to actually merge these together into a duo pack because they're effectively the same in what they do. Defender of the Galaxy, again, a vanilla one. It does 50% damage to all endgame crises, and it also gives you a 20% opinion to all alien empires, and Galactic Contender, which gives you 20% opinion, extra diplomatic weight, which is actually really nice, plus 33% damage to Fallen, Awakened, and gate builders. So, when should you use this? When you're playing on high difficulty as well as high crisis modes. Galactic Contender especially can be extremely useful, but it's not something that you'd want to use in general because the fleets that you can field are going to be able to quote-unquote contend with a Fallen and Awakened empires by the time they become a problem. And therefore, these particular ones are actually going to go into a B-C tier, mainly because they are so incredibly situational and completely based on whatever you decide when it comes to your difficulty, really. So Galactic Contender as well as Defender of the Galaxy are going to go into a B/C tier, which is why they're going to go hang out over here. They're good, again, very situationally, but they're not all that good when you're playing on easy mode, let's put it that way. Galactic Force Projection. Galactic Force Projection used to be one of the main picks if you were going to play tall back before 2.0, but that's obviously no longer the case. And in all honesty, Galactic Force Projection giving you plus 20 command limit, which means that you can add a couple more ships to your fleet, plus the 80 naval capacity. Naval capacity is such an easy thing to get, and plus 80 is totally not worth it. You can just crank out a couple of fortress worlds or anchorages all over the shop and just get insane amounts of naval capacity anyway. The fleet command limit is nice for getting slightly larger fleets, but instead of having a slightly larger fleet, you can just have a second fleet that is as large as the previous one. So why on earth would you take Galactic Force Projection? This is one of the few ones that I would do a heavy rebuild on because this is a full D tier for me. So we have wrapped up every single vanilla Ascension perk. And as you can see, None of them are particularly great except for maybe technological ascendancy. A lot of them are very situational, and it leaves the A and B category strangely empty. Don't worry, there is definitely A and B category Ascension perks out there. There may be not that many, but we will see down the line. First of all, we're going to go into Utopia. Utopia adds galactic wonders. I'm a little bit cheating here because, yeah, sure, Megacorp adds the matter decompressor, but overall, having the ability to build absolutely enormous galactic wonders is incredibly good. Ring worlds, Dyson spheres, and of course Megacorp's matter decompressor are incredibly powerful and a must-have in a late-game economy. You just simply cannot work without these, especially ring worlds are so useful for teching up in the late game, the Dyson sphere for basically giving you unlimited energy, and the matter decompressor for giving you unlimited minerals, and especially if you're working with Ecumen the matter decompressor is a must-have. And of course, you need to pay for the upkeep for all the megastructures that you're going to be building, which is also where the Dyson sphere comes in. Galactic Wonders for me is a solid S tier. No discussion right there. Solid S tier. It is incredibly good. And it's probably one of the main reasons why you would want to buy Utopia. Master Builders. Master Builders is also a Utopia-based Ascension perk. What does it do? It gives you plus 50% megastructure build speed, as well as the ability to build another megastructure in parallel to any that you're currently building. It's objectively good. It's not S tier, but still having the ability to very quickly build megastructures and start rolling out of control is really nice, especially when it comes to ring worlds, so that you can get additional building capacity. But of course, you can always get the Unity ambition to get yet another megastructure build capacity. You can get the final tier of the Science Directorate Alliance to get you yet another megastructure build capacity, which basically means that you can build 3 slots. Would I really spend an Ascension perk on Master Builders? Yes, but, and this is a big but, only if I have space for it in my build. It is exceptionally good, don't get me wrong, but sometimes there just is not enough space for Master Builders within my particular planned route for the Ascension perks. Again, we only have 8 slots, so that's why Master Builders in this particular case is going to go into the A tier. It's the very first A tier one, everybody. Hooray! Voidborn, technically part of Utopia, mostly part of Utopia, also a little bit of Federations because of the Void Dweller origin. What does it do? Well, we've discussed this at length in the past. It gives you plus 20% habitability on habitats, plus 2 habitat building slots. You can now build advanced housing on those habitats, such as the Utopia Dome. And of course, every single habitat tech is automatically available to you once you've researched the next tier, in a total of 3. Is it good? Objectively, yes. Is it always a pick? No, it is not. If you're playing wide, you most likely don't need Voidborn. If you're playing with a lot of planets, you most likely don't need Voidborn. Is it good for teching? Absolutely. Should you generally build one? If you can, yes, at least in terms of habitats. But to the extent that you need Voidborn to make him viable, no, I don't necessarily think so. Habitats are nice for Voidborn if you are specifically building for them, especially if you go tall, but it's not always applicable in every single scenario. So that's something you want to keep an eye on. Also, Galactic Wonders, what are you doing? You're supposed to be over here. But yeah, Voidborn. It's definitely ranging into the extremely good category, but I wouldn't put it in S tier. Voidborn is yet another A tier Ascension perk. If you don't need it, then you don't need it. If you feel that you can work without Voidborn because of the building slots, then go right for it. It is very, very good, but it's not game-breaking good unless, of course, you're playing extremely tall, or if you're playing as a Void Dweller. Oh boy, this is a weird one. Enigmatic Engineering. I used to pick this one as my default number 2, mainly because of what it does. But then after a lot of soul searching, I'd realized that Enigmatic Engineering It gives you +2 sensor range, which is nice. You can see inside of enemy territory a lot easier and see what's going on. You have +4 ship hyperlane detection range, so if you are at war, then you can see enemy troops come in a lot quicker so that you can respond to the enemy a lot easier. And on top of that, when your ships are destroyed, it doesn't leave any debris, which means that nobody can get your technology. Oh boy. I used to think this was A, maybe even S, but sadly, it's D, because this is very much something that is useful in multiplayer, and even then I don't even think that people are going to pick it, because when it comes to technology, and that's really the main reason why you would get this, so that the enemy cannot pick this particular, so the enemy cannot steal your technology, is not all that great, in all honesty. I don't really care about it in general. Sure, do I think that the enemy shouldn't have my tech? Absolutely. But by the time they can actually research it, you've already won the war and crushed them. So yeah. Also, this is an apocalypse one, by the way, just so you're aware. This is a D tier. It's not all that great. There's different mechanics in the game that can make sure that you cover all of this stuff, like sensor range, like. Seriously, it's not all that great. Which brings us to the Colossus project. Now, the Colossus project, obviously, it allows you to build a Colossus. Do you want to build a Colossus? It was touted as one of the big expansion features for Apocalypse. And are they objectively cool? Sure. Having the power to blow up a planet is amazing, but it is nothing compared to the power of pops. My lord, why would you want to kill the pops? Blowing up the planet is just such a terrible thing to do. It's a place of resources where you can build buildings and structures. You can have pops there. Again, the neutron blast, it kills the pops. Infrastructure can be rebuilt. The only real thing that the Colossus project is good for is A, the God Ray, that only spiritualists get. The assimilation ray, which is driven assimilators, and C, the Total War CB that you can get with it. And that is kind of good, but it is such a situational thing. The Colossus by itself is awesome. It's a planet killer. Sure, on paper, awesome. It's expensive. It takes a long time to get. And it's vulnerable. The only real reason you want one is, objectively, the CB. And that's why the Colossus project is the very first one that gets a B tier. It's cool, sure. Is it flexible? Not really. It's very situational. Not as situational as some of the other ones, but still interesting to have, but not all that awesome. Nihilistic Acquisition. I'm about to ruff a lot of feathers over here because it's not actually a D tier, not in my personal opinion. A lot of people would say Nihilistic Acquisition is the worst of all the Ascension perks. Sure, I can see why people would say that. Yeah, what does it do? It allows for the raiding bombardment stats. Sure, Barbaric Despoilers, they get it for free. Barbaric Despoilers are awful. Don't you worry, I'm building a mod for it just to fix it. But still, the raiding bombardment stance, why would you want to get it? It's not all that great. Sure, you can suck in a planet of primitives completely dry with it for funsies, but why would you do that? You can just invade the planet and just take the pops. That's how that works. You can steal enemy pops from other worlds. Is that viable? Yeah, if you want to keep them down, that's a good way of doing it and completely cripple them in the early game. It's a nice way of doing things. But unless you are rushing with military, it's not all that useful. In the late game, it's just a case of, do I really want to steal those pops over there? No, I'll just take the planet. That's a much easier way of approaching it. Unless you are a focused slaver empire or are a hardcore RP or nihilistic acquisition, it's not all that great. It's not all that great at all. And that's why it goes into the D tier. It's one of those that needs a little bit of rework. It's just the ability of being able to do the raiding bombardment stance. As an Ascension perk, it's just not worth it. It's just not worth it at all. Then we get to the Arcology project, one of my favorites. This one is all about building Ecumenopoly. Ah yes, the planet that is covered in a shell of buildings. Advanced districts for alloys, consumer goods, unity, trade, awesome. They're so good. Being able to deal with overflow population from whatever worlds that you have, awesome. Being able to support your alloy economy and building gigantic fleets as well as building megastructures, awesome. Arcology Project is a must-have, in my personal opinion. It is so good that if even in the situations where you really shouldn't be building one, let's say you are Void Dwellers, so situational, that doesn't even apply. Ecumenopoli are just awesome if you can support them, which is also why it's sitting right next to Galactic Wonders, which you can use to support them. Because you're going to need those minerals to upkeep this place, because it's going to get pretty busy in terms of those workers that are down there, as well as its hungry need for more and more minerals. Xenocompatibility. Xenocompatibility is probably one of the most interesting Ascension perks that are available. Everybody's always hammering on about, oh boy, I can crossbreed my pops with other pops. This is going to be awesome. Yeah, that's not why you get xenocompatibility. Xenocompatibility is the reason why the game has slowed down to a crawl in some scenarios, and it's also the only Ascension perk you can permanently turn off in the settings menu, which is rather interesting. The real reason why you want to get xenocompatibility is not hybrid species. It is the immigration poll bonus of 33%, and it is the pop growth speed bonus of 20%. Xenocompatibility is one of the strongest Ascension perks when it comes to growing your pops. There's one other one that's even better, but we'll touch upon that one later. But yeah, it's so good. A plus 33% immigration poll bonus, especially on Gaia Worlds, is insane. You will be cranking out pops like no tomorrow. 20% growth speed on pops, insanely good. It is so good. I love it. I love everything about it. I don't really care about the hybrid pops. It's a nice little extra thing to have. Sure, you can have a hybrid pop that all of a sudden, gets additional traits, and they've got some weird stuff going on, and it takes forever to gene tailor, which is why this is not an S tier, but still, it is A tier for me. A lot of people are definitely not going to agree with me on this one, because gene tailoring is also one of the gateways, but still, I don't care about the hybrid pops at all. It's a fun little quirk. It's the growth speed that is good. Growth means pops, and pops means winning the game. Yeah. It's part of Megacorp, by the way. Yeah, and that basically is all the basic Ascension perks. It's not all of them. We still have a bunch more on the list, and we're going to be covering these shortly. We're going to start off with the special perks. Consecrated Worlds. You may not even have heard of this particular Ascension perk because it is relatively obscure and it's only available to spiritualists. It's also part of vanilla, so there you have it. What does it do? Well, it's arguably one of the more convoluted Ascension perks that are in the game. First of all, as soon as you select Consecrated Worlds, you can have 3 Consecrated Worlds, and you can basically assign a world as a quote-unquote, as I already mentioned, Consecrated World. Upon selecting said world as, the thing that I just said a million times, you will no longer be able to colonize it. This world is off limits to anybody. But if it has a high enough ranking, let's say it's a Gaia world, it has a 100% chance of cranking up your Unity bonus by 8%. It also increases your amenities by 4%. You can do this 3 times, up to a stack of, 24%. And that's a huge amount. A huge amount of Unity. 24% is really, really good. It's much better than One Vision ever was. But the thing is that you need Gaia worlds to do this. At least there's a chance of getting it on normal worlds. It's about 10%. But a Gaia world is a guaranteed 8% bonus. So do you really want to do this? If you're playing with a lot of planets, yes, absolutely. Consecrated Worlds is really, really good. If you roll the Ba'ul precursor, absolutely. It's a no-brainer. You just go for it because you can just turn any world into a Gaia world and it becomes a sacred world instantly, which is really nice. And then, you can stack that up to 24%, which is really good. And then, of course, you get the 12% amenities bonus, which means that you will never have to build any amenity buildings anywhere ever again. To basically compare this to, say, a resort world, which generates a amenity bonus of 15% within your empire, it's pretty good, even though resort worlds don't come in until the mid-game, but it does stack, which is really, really nice. But yeah, as I mentioned, you do need Gaia worlds for it for maximum efficiency, so either getting the Ba'ul precursor is really nice, or getting World Shaper, but that means spending yet another Ascension slot on getting Consecrated Worlds, which is a... yeah, it's just, you only have 8 of them. So what are you gonna do? It's difficult to work with. It's good. It has its practicality. I still think this is a B tier over here. It's gonna hang out here with the Colossus project. If you are Spiritualist, you probably want to go for this for the Unity growth, because Spiritualists have a really easy time going through those Unity trees and becoming extremely powerful. But still, it's still only a B tier. And it's, even though it's specially for Spiritualists only, it needs a little bit of tweaking to be really, really good. Then we get to the illustrious duo of the Hive Worlds and the Machine Worlds, part of Utopia and Synthetic Dawn respectively. And basically what it does is, Hive World, you can terraform a planet into a Hive World, and Machine Worlds, guess what? You can terraform worlds into a machine world. Very exciting stuff. Takes 20 years, takes 10,000 energy. You can build any district you want, wherever you want, and you get bonuses to your own species, whether or not you're hive minds or robots. But do be aware that only hive minds and robots can live on those respective worlds. Now, they are functionally the same, except one is for hive minds and one is for robots. So, are they any good? Yes. If you are playing with hive minds, and if you're playing with robots, then these are S tier. Absolutely. I am going to go... Consecrated Worlds is going to go on a little bit of a journey there. Yeah, definitely. This is S tier, but in a kind of a different way. I'm just going to put this in a separate little line over here. Because if you are playing as robots or hive minds, you want these. There is just no other choice. They are so good. Let's put it that way. You want to have these ones, and you want to spend an Ascension perk on these planets. They're just too good to ignore. Synthetic Age. This is yet another Synthetic Dawn-related Ascension perk. And what does it do? Well, it gives you 2 additional machine modding points. Is it worth it? Yes, absolutely. It's pretty good. Mainly because it also gives you a reduction to cost, which means that you can tech faster down the line, which is rather nice. If you're robots, then you should definitely get Synthetic Age, because 2 extra points on your robo-modding is just totally worth it. You can get any sort of perk on top of what you already have and boost your economy even more, and that's why it's going to go into the special list here up in S tier. Universal Transactions. It's the only one for Megacorp that is specifically designed for said Megacorp. So what does it do? Well, it reduces your branch office cost by 15%, which is an influence-related item. And on top of that, commercial packs no longer cost influence, which means that you will have more influence to go around, which is really nice because you want to get as many of these commercial packs with everybody around the galaxy. It's really, really good, and it's a specialist for Megacorps, and it's an S tier. What can I say? It is just awesome. If you are a Megacorp, you should get Universal Transactions, mainly probably as your second or your third one, depending on whether or not you've got any sort of first contact already going on. If you are a criminal Megacorp, then you already have it by default, which is rather nice. But still, it's just too good to give up. And then finally we get to the Ascension Paths, all 6 of them, and they all have their own uses, and they are all pretty darn good. They are only available through Utopia, and you should be aware of that, and they are one of the primary reasons why you'd want to get Utopia. They are all very, very good, but they're not all S tier for various reasons that we're going to be explaining in the very, very near future. First of all, there is Engineered Evolution. Plus 3 trait points for you to deal with your empire. You get a minus 25% cost modifier on changing your traits. You get Gene Troopers. And most importantly, you get cloning vats. Cloning vats are one of the best buildings in the game because it will boost your pop growth like mad. As soon as you get Engineered Evolution, you'll just spam those cloning vats everywhere because you just want to get more and more pops. They are just so good. And that's why Engineered Evolution goes straight up in the S tier. It's probably one of my favorite Ascension Paths, and we'll do a video in the future about why that is the case, but still, it's Engineered Evolution is just so good. It's amazing. I love it. Which leads us straight into Evolutionary Mastery. Again, +3 trait points. You get another 25% cost modifier for your changing your traits. And then on top of that, you get advanced traits, the best traits in the game, bar none. And on top of that, it allows hive minds to assimilate other species. So if you're a hive mind, you definitely want to go down this route. Not that you have a lot of choice, but still you get the general idea. So good. Absolutely amazing. The advanced traits by themselves make this a S tier pick, bar none. I'm not even kidding here. I'm sure there's a lot of people that don't agree with me here, but still, Evolutionary Mastery is just so good, and it's just not worth giving up. Mind over Matter. I really want to like Mind over Matter because it does give you a bunch of really cool things. Sure, it turns your species latent psionic, which means that all your jobs will generate either 5% extra energy or research, which is nice, especially if you're a spiritualist empire and you're not really focusing all that much on that research, what you should do anyway. But still, you know, it's nice to have. Being able to get all those traits is nice. And it also gives you the telepathy research, which is also cool. On top of that, it gives you the Psy-Core building, which gives you +5 stability, and it also gives you telepath jobs, which reduces crime by 35% and also generates 3 units of unity. Is it good? Yes. Is it amazing? No. This is a solid B tier for me over here. It can hang out here with Consecrated Worlds, yet another spiritualist thing. By the way, if you're playing as materialist, Mind over Matter is extremely unlikely to appear because, well, you just don't have access to psionics to begin with unless you're extremely lucky with your randomized rolls. But yeah, Mind over Matter, B tier to me. Which takes us to Transcendence. Transcendence gives you the psionic trait, which gives you +10 energy per pop job, as well as 10% research per pop job. It's the same for energy, by the way. And also makes pops happier by 5%, which is kind of nice. And on top of that, it gives you access to the Shroud. Why am I going to put this in the B tier? Because the Shroud is way too random to make it interesting for a min-max player. If you're playing in an RP environment, if you like your role-playing, Mind over Matter and Transcendence are super fun and really good to work with. But from an objective standpoint, Transcendence and Mind over Matter are a solid B tier because they just don't do enough in terms of randomization. Are they fun? Absolutely. Are they powerful? If you can get the Psi Shields, if you can get a Chosen One, if you can get a decent patron, sure. But that's all a roll of the dice. It's just not good enough to be objectively good. Is it fun? Yes. Is it practical? No. No, it's not. And then we're left with the last two. It's the Flesh is Weak and Synthetic Evolution. The flesh is weak. Okay, what does it do? Well, it reduces your robot upkeep by 10%. It increases your robot assembly speed by 10%. And it gives you the cybernetics trait, which gives you additional army damage, additional habitability, and your leaders will live 40 years longer. Is it good? Yeah, it's pretty good if you want to go down that route. Is it as good as, say, genetic engineering, like engineered evolution? No, it is not, because it does not give you access to the wonders of the cloning vats. The pop jobs that you can get from it are pretty good. The bonuses to leaders, pretty good as well, but I just don't think it's worth all that while in terms of tiering them here. A tier, absolutely. They're practical, they're good, but not nearly as good as Engineered Evolution. And I'm sure that a lot of people will have very, very strong opinions about this one. Synthetic Evolution. Well, it goes into the A tier together with the Flesh is Weak. It gives you additional robot modification points. Your modification for species is reduced by 50%. Your robots will do 10% additional output. And your entire species is turned into robots with all the traits that come with that. Is it good? Sure. Is it as good as Engineered Evolution? No, it goes into the A tier. In all honesty, it's sometimes a good idea to go for just the flesh is weak and not ignore Synthetic Evolution, because then you can have cyborg pops whilst also building robo pops in parallel. Is it nice to have? Sure. Is it amazingly good? I would disagree. Sure, the robot output is nice and being able to live anywhere is nice, but Synthetic Evolution gets the A tier from me. And I'm sure a lot of you will disagree with this and feel that it needs to be on the same level of Engineered Evolution and Evolutionary Mastery. But we'll do a separate video about why Ascension Perks are good and why they are not necessarily all that good. And that there wraps up our Ascension tier list. Wow, we've got a lot in S tier, we've got a lot of them in D tier, and B and A does need a little bit of polish. Is this what you were thinking when you were clicking on this video? Do you agree with some of these setups? Feel free to leave your comments down below because your opinions do matter to me. In addition, we're going to do a video in the near future looking at the D tier Ascension perks and seeing how we could potentially improve them. And tell you what, I'll write a mod after that once we've discussed that in the comments below. About what to change. That's right, I will write a mod specifically for a video based on your comments in this video. So there's your CTA. Give me your ideas why the D tier ones need to be improved, but also why do you feel some of these rank higher or lower in your opinion. In the meantime, though, I want to thank my patrons for making this video possible. If it wasn't for you, well, we wouldn't be here, would we? It's always good to have the patrons on my back, making sure that these videos happen. On your screen right now, there's a bunch of other videos that may be interesting to you. If you feel that you want to click on one of them, go right ahead. There's a playlist as well about the mechanics within the game. But in the meantime, we're going to go and wrap up this video here. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, take good care of yourselves, and as always, make sure you pick your Ascension perks right, because you only have 8 slots.